Hello, good afternoon. My name is Paulo Pedro, and this next panel is on sustainability and innovation. And well, I'm joined here by my colleagues of the panel, Alvise Migotto, who is one of the founders of the Amazon Fun Parks, Manuel Vilhena, which one of the co-founders of Silveira Tech Village, and Roberto Antunes, the CEO of Nest Center of Innovation for Tourism. Okay. Well, let's. The theme of this panel is that in response to the growing concerns of sustainability and to achieve an edge in increasing competitive market, the tourism industry has seen development of a host of innovative startups in tourism. And so I'll ask you to briefly present your projects and briefly detail the most innovative and sustainable aspects of the project. I'll start with you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So Amazon Fun Parks, wrapping it briefly, is a hotel resort and theme park on the Amazon. So we produced for many years exhibitions on the Amazon that we took all over the world. And what is important about these exhibitions is the content, because the content deals with the issues that are underneath the whole idea of sustainability. Where does sustainability come from? So when you think about the Amazon, you have these amazing ideas, and at the same time that we have all these problems, it is still 80% intact, and we can see it as our Garden of Eden. So we developed a way of turning these temporary exhibitions into permanent, what we call edutainment centers, via a hotel resort with a theme park, which will present the content about the Amazon, be it biodiversity, climate, indigenous peoples' issues, in a fun way, in an entertaining way, with technology, virtual reality, immersive games. And the business model is structured so that the hotels are sold in the format of shared or fractional property, fractional ownership property. So we have, in our first venture in Brazil, in Santa Catarina, we are selling 700 apartments in this fractional property model that will be administered by Wyndham Resorts and Hotels, which is the world's largest hotel and resort chain. And we also are partnering with RCI. RCI is the world's largest vacation exchange. So the buyers they buy a portion which guarantees them 2 weeks of use, and also the deed for 1/26 of the property. And it is run as a hotel. So if they are not using, in any determined year, they're not using their property, they can put it into the hotel pool for rent, or they can have friends or relatives use it, or they can also opt through RCI to exchange their 2 weeks for 2 weeks in other hotels across the world. Okay, so what happens is this business model of the fractional ownership property creates enough revenue to pay for the theme park, which is the second business. And this second business is a perpetual business, so it is self-sustainable financially. So in that sense, we found a business model that pays for an entertainment center, let's call it, an entertainment center that provides a platform for the content of the Amazon And when I talk about the content of the Amazon, as I explained before, we're talking about all the issues that are directly related to the issue of sustainability in via entertainment. So basically that's what Amazon Fun Parks is all about. Our first project is in the south of Brazil, but we are looking at other areas as well, including Portugal, in the United States, in New York, and in Las Vegas. And that's it. We started selling actually the fractional property last year, and we are opening now in March our 5th showroom in Brazil, and we have in 4 different cities in Brazil now, and the project is to be launched in 2025, the opening for the hotel and park.
As I understand, one of the components of the project is an educational purpose based on the content center.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
And so, what other elements of the project would you describe as sustainability related or innovation related? How is the project different from other real estate projects? Where's the innovation, so that the audience can understand a little bit more?
Okay, well, obviously the construction is will be all Aqua HQE certified. That's a given. But also, we opened an institute, the Amazon Institute, which is working in partnership with Solutions for the Future, which is forming a platform co-op, developing this platform co-op, so that we can provide a direct, let's say, economic return for communities in the Amazon, for projects in the Amazon. We work with over 30 institutions, not only in Brazil, but international institutions as well, NGOs, private, public sector, third sector. And through this program, they will be able to provide solutions for the designs, the indigenous peoples' cultures, and we will have a program, for example, so that they can copyright these designs, and they will receive economic returns, designs, furniture for the games, for content that is based on ancient wisdom from the forest peoples.
Okay, so there's a real concern to provide an impact to the communities where the project is inserted.
Yes, also with the Solutions for the Future, it includes also the local community, okay, wherever we install, whether it's in Brazil or in Portugal or in the US, and also the communities in the Amazon.
Okay, thank you. Let's now, well, we've seen the presentation of Silveira Tech, and that's a very interesting and innovative project. What sustainable elements, if we go a little bit deeper into the key aspects of the project, what are the key sustainable elements? Probably construction materials, regenerating the nature, and what kind of innovation, of types of innovation do you intend to include in the project?
So not really sustainable elements, regenerative elements. So it goes a long way from the way we have designed our environmental regeneration master plan to our business model not being focused on beating the S&P 500 or tripling investors' money in 10 years. Actually, we have a minimum of 50 years as a time horizon for this project. Or even the way we are going to build, minimizing the most we can concrete and using only local materials from the region and ancient building techniques, also biomimetics, biophilic architecture, has a way that we have to use the sun in the winter to warm the houses and use ventilation in the summer to cool them down, the way we treat the wastewater from the kitchens and the toilets that will then be used to re-irrigate the land around us. And then also the tech community that we are building there. And we have a background in tech. We have a past of investing in hundreds of tech companies and startups. So we know how to put people from the innovation space together and help them leverage their own projects. So in terms of regenerative systems that we are building, we're quite complex and they're very difficult. So if there's anyone in the audience here that's working on that field as well and wants to come and join us, hey Florian, how's it going? Yeah, you guys are free to do it because, as I said, it's a 50-year time horizon project. You could even slice it up and it's 200 different complex projects, and all of them are trying to reimagine and looking at the way we think and we build systems and bringing them a step forward, in essence.
Just wanted to present a new addition to the panel that was not, well, it did not on time. I have with me, we have Alessandra Priante from the World Tourism Organization. Hi, Alessandra, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. And my dear, no, it's not me that did not enter in time. I was patiently waiting to be admitted. And I would like to kindly ask maybe Teresa Kuski, who's managing to remove my, the visualization of, to put me in mainframe, because I have many friends over there who are giving me feedback on the way that I'm looking towards you. And it's really a great pity that I'm not with you. So really apologies for that. Next time I will never accept to do virtual again. I promise you, I will be there in person. And thank you very much for having me. I'm the Director of the Region of Europe at the UNWTO, and it's really a great pleasure for me to be able to be with you today. And again, I would like to ask Teresa if there's, apologies for intervening in this. Teresa, there's 3 dots in Zoom in the bottom, and you can remove the chat. Otherwise, I guess everyone is going to see what we were writing to each other. And just put me on the part where you say you, put me on main screen so everybody will be able to see me properly, if that is okay. So, having said this, I was asked to join this very important panel to tell you a little bit more about what UNWTO is doing. Of course, the UNWTO is the United Nations agency devoted to tourism, specifically to sustainable, universally accessible and responsible tourism. And during this pandemic, we've been learning a lot, doing a lot. The majority of the thing is that obviously we've been making sure that tourism was pretty much understood in its power and its impact. But we've been also trying to support countries to make them understand that this was the time where sustainability needed to become an action, because we were also showing that specifically during pandemic, those countries, those destinations that had chosen correctly sustainable practices in the, let's say, 3-partite vision, which is economical, environmental, and mainly social regarding community, they were actually the ones who were able to reopen or regain a little bit of activity when the borders were reopening in a more organic and consistent way. So if anybody had any doubt whether sustainability could be a little bit more than a word, well, that was absolutely the case for that to happen. So, having said this, what is UNWTO doing at the moment? First of all, we are supporting the activities and mainly using the best countries as examples, one of them being Portugal, the countries that are implementing the most sustainable policies in the most serious way as an example for the rest of the world. And why this is important? Because obviously the rest of the world is going at different paces, and we want to continue advocating for this importance. But we're also doing something very specific, because we are, first of all, committing in the climate action for tourism, together with other sister agencies like UNEP, like UNESE, and obviously under the vision of the Secretary General Guterres, to not only measure the impact of climate action, specifically tourism for climate action, but also to engage with the stakeholders of tourism, public and private, to make sure that they would commit to something which was absolutely tangible. So we launched the Glasgow Declaration on Climate Action and Tourism, which is an urgent call for commitment to a decade of climate action and tourism. And the idea is to cut global tourism emission by at least half over the next decade and reach net zero by 2050. Ambitious? Yes, but we must be ambitious in this world. What happens when you sign? We have over 600 signatories, and Portugal is among the few countries, at a government level, that are committing to this. Each signatory, it commits to deliver a concrete climate action plan with measuring, decarbonizing, regenerating, collaborating, creating finance elements to be shared. So a real commitment, not just, let's say, something to make everybody look good. We have other initiatives in place like the Global Tourism Plastics Initiative, but mostly we have the Measuring Sustainable Tourism Initiative. What is it? We are, let's say, the point of reference for statistics and data when it comes to tourism all over the world. No objective is an objective if you cannot measure it. So in that case, you need to measure the impact of, let's say, how sustainable you are and the impact of your sustainable policies. So in order to do that, we are coming forward with a new standard we've elaborated, and we are applying it to pilot countries. In Europe, there's Austria, there's Spain, there's also non-members like Sweden, Italy, with whom we are working directly with a specific framework of statistics to be able to measure how much you're achieving of sustainability, and therefore be able to actually support the choice, the political choice that has been made. Sustainability, once again, everyone talks about it. I recently said in an interview that it's like aspirin, aspirin was the name of the medicine attached to paracetamol. So in reality, it was paracetamol called aspirin. We started calling aspirin something, and we started using aspirin for everything. This is the same that happens with sustainability, but sustainability is a choice, is an investment, sometimes even a very important financial investment that has a vision which is much longer than what anybody could expect in terms of break even. But it pays off. It also pays off because if there's one thing that we learned at the moment, specifically in Europe, we're in huge crisis. We have an energy crisis at the door. We have labor shortage. So we need to reinvent ourselves and continue advocating for the importance of tourism. For tourism also, as I was saying before, is a tool for change. So tourism is, we've proven it does exist. It exists, and it's much more than that percentage of the GDP because it has many layers and many applications. And we cannot do without tourism. So we need to make sure that tourism is empowered enough to make that impact in the long term. And therefore, we as UNWTO stand together with the public sector and the private sector to make sure that there's a strong advocacy so that tourism is always there and not forgotten. And as I was saying, with all the crises that we have at the moment, specifically in Europe, we definitely need to reinvent also demand and offer. Demand is asking for new things. Our offer needs to be reinvented. And guess what? Sustainability is becoming a very crucial element in the choice. Recently, we've held the first Global Youth Tourism Summit in Italy. We have empowered and spoken to the under 18. You'll be happy to know that 90% of these kids, when they think about their future travel, they want a destination that is sustainable. They want to know how they recycle their waste. They want to know what they do with their plastic. How much energy are they saving? They want to know if they're involving the local community or not. And they're not going to go until they have that specific information. So we also have to be forward-thinking and think that sustainability is the right choice, and as said before, is the only choice. So once again, kudos to all the initiatives that are taken until now in Portugal, and also with the other esteemed panelists that are there sharing their experience. But once again, if there's something that is crucial, is we need to maintain this alliance to make sure that the objective is actually reached.
Alessandra, one question. You mentioned that one of the things that you were doing is working with various countries into setting up a set of indicators to measure the impact of the sustainability actions. My question to you is, are you seeing in the various countries that you work with the integration of sustainability into their tourism strategy plans? You mentioned that in Portugal as being one of the leading examples. I know that we have a sustainability plan aligned with the tourism strategy for Portugal. Do you feel that other countries are including sustainability relation strategies in their plans in order to develop the needed actions for those indicators measure the impact?
Okay, let me tell you one thing. Mainly, we are talking about Europe. Europe is the only region where these sustainability strategies at a government level are being drafted and or implemented. Some of them we actually helped as well to develop. Another very good example of how strongly they believe in sustainability is Croatia, which you could potentially consider a competitor in a way, in Portugal. I would say once again, and you know, all my colleagues of Portugal that are there listening, they know how frank I am normally, and I will not disappoint them this time. As I said before, sustainability is a beautiful word that, and also world, yes, but it's a beautiful word that many, let's say, new political, let's say, environments, they like to use to attach to their initiatives. But it's one thing to call a policy sustainable, is one thing to do it. And examples like Portugal or Croatia are examples of countries that actually have studied before coming up with a policy, have identified all the single lines, and probably even put some finance in place, or at least identified where the finance should go. So once again, being sustainable means that you want to achieve certain objectives in a certain time frame, being very well aware of the impact you're going to make, and therefore including everybody, first of all your own community, because you cannot do a tourism strategy for a destination if the community of the destination is not included, to include other ministries, other stakeholders, energy, transport, communication. Everybody needs to be part of the game, otherwise there's no sustainable policy. And the other thing, to measure
Alessandra, you're frozen. Your image is frozen. I think we've lost Alessandra. Yes. Well, let's go on and let's go on to the next speaker. Now, next one is for you, Roberto. NEST, as I understand, is one of the instruments of the tourism strategy to foster innovation in this very important sector of the Portuguese economy. Can you briefly a little bit present NEST and what is NEST and how this serves the purpose of the strategy for this important sector of the economy?
Surely, surely. I think it feels really, really wonderful that I'm actually the last one, so after dear Alessandra and these two gentlemen, because actually the Innovation Center falls in between. So it's a connection between these great drivers of change and actually the connection done with the economical tissue and then the initiatives. So back in a couple of years ago, while Portugal defining itself as a country to thrive tourism based on green and the digital, identified already the potential of an innovation center to become, let's say, the pivot of this conversation. So to enable and ignite, let's say, the possibilities in a fast-forward mode on things and matters that could be, let's say, competitive or improve our competitive edge a couple of years ago. And this influences, for sure, they say, the creativity side of development of innovation, the innovation culture itself, the support of projects and entrepreneurs that already have this, let's say, vision. And imagine a couple of years ago how weird and different it would sound, and today it's actually much more, let's say, related to the common citizen, but a couple of years ago it wasn't. So the creation and institution of NEST as Innovation Center came in exactly to push these boundaries, actually to make it really as a transformative aspect of the Portuguese tourism. So in practice, what do we do? As fast as we can to actually to make this, this language become accessible for SMEs. So sustainability is a word, like Alessandra has said, and indeed it is. When you deep into, then you find everything. And it can become really challenging for small entrepreneurs to actually tap into in all of these areas. You know, it's like 19 areas that United Nations have defined. So imagine how to cope up and make all this actionable. It's quite difficult, you know, for entrepreneurs. But on the other hand, you also mentioned, and Alessandra did as well, then it's paramount for the future. Without it embodied as, let's say, the reason why and the motivation for those businesses, they will not be able actually to live in the future. So the common citizen, like all of us, is now more turning into the value of this. We want to see the return on society, we want to see the return on environment, or even the protulation of cultural aspects that make us Portuguese, for example, and makes our tourism unique and not copyable by all the others. So in this essence, on the DNA of the generation of the future tourism opportunities and actually the present ones, sustainability is the fundamental aspect. So on disseminating this kind of speech that I'm just sharing with you guys, this is a thing that we do it in a practical ways as well with the SMEs through webinars, to the presence on events such as this one. Apart from this as well, being very practical, because there are needs of measurement, there are needs of solutions as well to optimize, let's say, the use of water, the energy, the waste, and actually to make use of sustainability or regeneration as the main aspect of, let's say, the quality of the offering. So it's not only the things that you do as the basis of making your business, you know, great. That's an important one, because the immaterial stuff and the immaterial actives are now turning into the most valuable ones in each and every company. So you have to work on it. But then the opportunity of transforming this into an amazing experience is huge. So imagine as you just making your choices, understanding the impact of good that you're doing. And think about it. If you Google now, if you want to travel somewhere, you already have the information of the impact on the CO2 of traveling. You will also see if the hostel or the hotel that you're thinking of staying, it has a green label or not. If you go as well on your Google to travel, so on the Google Maps, you will find information on the way that reduces the use of fuel. So all of this language is just making us as consumer not only to consider sustainability and regeneration as an important thing, but we will start making decisions based on that. And what's interesting on this is that the opportunity now is on building ideas based that this is amazing, amazing opportunity, because people are now searching for this. So apart from this kind of preaching these themes, we're also supporting a couple of initiatives. I'll be very quick just to give you a couple of examples. We work with startups. Most of them are in the, let's say, on the network of the Turismo de Portugal efforts that they make every year on fostering innovation in tourism. So it's like 500 startups on which they connect every year, and we are paying attention on which each ones are actually tapping into really transformative and interesting ideas that need nurturing. And so what we try to find is actually places for piloting or connection to corporates or money with venture capital if needed be, or mentoring. So we have a couple of examples, like we're working with Neutral in order to develop an optimization system for the use of water, and actually trying with them how to use that information for the consumers that stay at the hotel. How would it work if they would know how much they have spent in water? What if the price of the room has a fixed part, but also has one which is indexed to the use of and consumption of water or electricity? Would that put some added value? Would they consider this as an important practice? So these are the kinds of things that we are trying with them. Also with Steven...
Right, just let me, so that I can conclude
Sure.
our intervention. So we were talking, sorry Alessandra, we lost you for a moment, and you were talking about working with various countries in developing the actions or the strategies to include sustainability in their plans so that the impact can be measured. Can you please conclude your intervention?
Thank you very much. Actually, I don't know where you lost me exactly, because I was I've gone to the end. So I think I would like to stress one important factor. I didn't want to mention it because I know Roberto was going to speak about innovation. And I was mentioning that the example of Portugal or Croatia is the example of having a strategy which is built upon research. Instead of just adding the word sustainability to your policy, you're actually studying before, making your evaluation and your measurements, putting your objectives, understanding how and when you're going to reach them, and then putting your actions forward. This is what a strategic plan is. And unless it's done like this with continuity, it's not going to be able to make an impact. So we need to understand here, once again, that in order to be able to make an impact, we must continue acting. Acting with examples, acting with a series of, let's say, initiatives that will all make sense. Why innovation is important? Because it connects a very crucial ecosystem to the possibility of development, of sustainable development of tourism. We cannot see ourselves as isolated, let's say, elements, even if obviously from a policy perspective, there is very much that moment where the national interest is above anything else. But specifically in tourism, there's no national strategy. Whatever strategy you put in place is going to have an impact on everybody else. Not just as the tourism flows, but also as the way you're shaping the future. And in this sense, once again, we rely very much in Portugal, rely on Portugal to be able to make the impact that we're expecting and be the pioneer, as usual. I mean, you've initiated the tourism in a way a long, long time ago by having the desire to explore. So I guess that you will need to keep up to your reputation, and we will need to continue following you because you're definitely doing it right.
Let's hope so. Thank you, Alessandra. Roberto, just another to conclude your answer. What types of areas do you look for in terms of projects to support? I guess that in selecting the startups that you intend to support, you're looking for specific areas that are more in need to develop the tourism sector, or do you have priorities in terms of areas? Are they in mobility, in environment, in big data? So what are the major priorities of areas in which you seek projects to support?
Yeah. No, despite all of them are valid, whatever they are meant to be implemented, we try to search that areas that once we pilot can revert into, let's say, the most massified opportunities. So the more applicable it is to a vast majority of SMEs, the better. So that will be, let's say, our best contribution. We also acknowledge that we don't do it alone. So there's more entities which are providing the support and doing efforts in order for innovation as well to happen. But we as a mission, we really want to be part of the support of the SMEs in order to this, tap into the green and digital transition. So it's the scalability is definitely a very important thing. And that's the reason why matters like the use of water, the efficiency on energy, it's a very important one. That's another pilot that we're driving. The social aspect as well on inclusion, that's a very important one. We've also developed a very interesting platform with Accessible Portugal that actually has won a prize. But it's actually to provide to all hospitality as a whole can actually make use of this platform for each and every employee, and especially the new employee, in order to have guidelines and orientation on how to best welcome people with any kind of disability or temporarily or permanent. So these are the kind of things we're actually finding. We're also tapping into, let's say, the resilience national plans to support agendas. And one of the very, very important part of this tourism agenda that we are, let's say, pushing through, the process is not yet finished, but we are pushing through, is actually on sustainability. And again, the matters that fall into there, with approximately 30 million euros to be invested in the next 3 years, is on water, is on mobility. That's the transition to these new energies is a fundamental one. It's about efficiency in buildings. So think about airports and hotels, etc. So the huge amount of water and energy, if it becomes energy efficient, how much does that impact the whole world? So that's a very important matter for us. And then overall, also on specific tools like calculators, diagnosis, produced for everyone actually, and especially thinking on SMEs that they cannot afford, those big consultancy, big checks in order to have, the strategies and the answers, so they have to do it on their own. And some of the times it's really difficult then to collect, the data in order to build up that strategy. So we do with these platforms and diagnosis, the support for every kind of business actually then to produce their own sustainable strategy, so to fit in the overall tourism national strategy. So these are, let's say, the final answer to you is actually the more scalable the opportunity it is, so the bigger the opportunity for us to support and help out, because then let's say the progression is more, it's wider.
I will launch a final question to all the participants. What in terms of tourism, what would be, in your opinion, the areas of opportunity or challenges where you feel that further innovation is required, either for you both that are being already contemplated in your projects, or other could be contemplated in other projects? What comes to your mind briefly, areas of opportunity to address in terms of innovation?
So the area of opportunity that comes to my mind is actually implementing regenerative tourism. As far as I know, there is no project in the world yet, but there's already a lot of people talking about it. And the way we intend to do it is so that you're not just extracting value from a place and exploring the communities that live in it, A tourist comes, learns, connects, explores, and adds to the place it visits. And that's what we're intending to build in Silveira. And if you want to go there for a weekend, you can't. The minimum stay is 1 month, or else you're not allowed to go. We don't want you there. Because that's the amount of time that takes for not only you to go on a journey, but also the people that live there to go on a journey with you, and for your presence there to actually impact positively the community, the land, the whole ecosystem. So yeah, that's our answer to that.
Okay. Alessandra, what would you see as areas of opportunity for further innovation?
Areas of opportunities for, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you
For
properly.
further innovation that you see that are for projects, or that you see that in the work that you do in the various countries, areas that you see that lack in tourism, in the tourism sector, that lack innovation. And
As I said before, sustainability and innovation are two great words. Innovation works perfectly, for example, what Roberto was describing. When you're creating that ecosystem and you are, for example, focusing on startups, you are focusing on creating a generation, you're nurturing a generation, and you are changing the face that things not only are created but also deployed. I think the lack, as you're highlighting, at the moment, focuses entirely on skills. So there's a skill gap that we need to fill up. And this skill gap, we could use innovation to fill up that skill gap, not necessarily by creating programmers. The use of innovation is innovative ways of doing things. And we need to make sure that we're training people, we're keeping the tourism high up as a desirable job for the younger generations. And the only way we do that is by entering into certain dynamics which are way beyond the traditional aspect of tourism. At the end of the day, tourism allows us this. This is why we all love it. This is why I'm personally in love with this sector every morning I wake up, because it allows you to do many things. So definitely this is the time where we cannot ignore the fact that 62% of the labor force in Europe of tourism was lost. And until we recuperate that, we will never be able to re-nurture again and change the face of the most human of all economic sector, which is tourism.
thank you, Alessandra. Alvise, probably the situation in Brazil is certainly very different from what you find in Europe.
Yes.
What you would see as further areas or opportunities for innovation in the sector?
Well, I think in Brazil, certainly sustainability, while it's not a new concept, but it's a more recent concept that's being put into practice now. We don't have so much of a history, but where I see innovation is not only in a venture, a tourism venture. So for us, we have a resort complex, but we are not separate from the community. So it's no use if our venture is sustainable and innovative and has all the solutions, but it's not reflected in the community. The community has to accompany that change.
So expanding that link to communities to other projects, so making that a core for most of the tourism projects developed in the country.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yes, bringing in the community. Also through the value of intangibles, and not just things you can count physically or carbon counting, but social programs that can not re-educate, but transform. Or, for example, for us, we're going to elevate the level of hospitality that's required for the tourists that we want to attract.
Okay.
And that has to be reflected in the community as well.
Mm-hmm. Roberto, final, same question for you, phrased in a little different way. What would be the startup that you would like to support but still hasn't appeared?
I think sometimes we're kind of waiting for something magnificent to happen, and we already have great things around us. And sometimes the best ideas, they are not really wild. They're just very simple. So not to repeat of any of my fellow panelists have said, because I totally agree, I would say on something related to the decarbonization. So to detach as much as we can in tourism, the narrative of the carbon with tourism. this is something that we are very much associated in people's minds. So the more we have on finding solutions on how to decarbonize, so all of these programs and initiatives that contribute to the social well-being, to the preservation of the culture and identity, that these guys are doing, this is wonderful. So the way that we can connect the decarbonization, and we are a country a little bit on the periphery of Europe, so we will always have a little bit of this luggage to carry. This is very important for Portugal. So more initiatives on the solutions, on things, on how to help out the decarbonization, and how to, as well, as platforms, as for example, the blockchain solutions can actually help out a lot on creating, let's say, currency that we transfer. So these are the kinds of ideas that I think at the present I wouldn't mind to be helpful.
Okay, good. I think now we have some time for questions and answers. I don't know if there are some questions from the audience.
I would like to know how old is your baby, Silveira? How old? The second one is how do you see Silveira will be in 2050? Because these 3 years people keep talking in 2015. And I would like to know the difference between your village and the past eco-village. Because I loved your presentation. I think it was the best of the 3 days that I'm here. You are actually doing, but I'm also afraid that we are moving from sustainability to regeneration, and also from eco to, just changing words. And
No, but it's not changing words. The ideas are different.
Okay.
And as I said, sustainability, as understood by the average person, is just like not doing any harm. But it's not about not doing any harm anymore. It's about regenerating. Because not doing any harm already will lead to collapse. So how old is Silveira? Silveira is more than 1,000 years old.
No,
But we started to envision the project in 2017. Few obstacles, but just the idea was 2017, and started actively working on it since 2020. And the way I see it in 2050, I would like to see it as a flag planted worldwide, in which people know that there is a community in which they are free to experiment, they are free to connect with other people, like-minded, and they are free to look at technological innovation as a way of bringing humanity away from the collapse. So, yeah, that's it.
And just one more. Did government help you to get did you bought the village? Government helped you? If I have the same idea,
No, it's
can I have a
funds.
village for my own and start doing it tomorrow?
Well, if you want me to give you the blueprint, I can give you later. But no, it's our own funds. We bought it, but of course we have a lot of help from public entities around the village and also at the national level, because, I mean, it's a cool project, so who wouldn't want to contribute?
Any more questions? Yeah. You have the microphone.
Okay. It's a comment and a question. After all these 3 days of being in this conference, I'm a bit frustrated in several senses. One is that there is, I think, a lack of participation of the attendees. Is rare the forum or the session where we, as attendees, can give our opinion or share or question those that are in stage. So in the conference that want to promote collaboration, cooperation, doing things together, well, it was more a kind of spreading the news to those guys that are in this side of the attendance than multi-level communication and platform. And for me, it's a complete frustration in that sense. A second comment that I want to know, to say, is about tourism, precisely because I'm a researcher in the Research Center in Tourism and Well-being and Sustainability of the University of the Algarve, and most of the speeches are positive. Of course, they should be positive, but for me, that I am working in several sustainability projects since 2010, I think most of the people are too much optimistic because you are not with your hands on the mud, as you say. Things in the Algarve, and I'm coming from the main sand and beach destination of the country, are not quite that. The President of Portugal Tourism 2 days ago told us that all five-star hotels have a sustainable plan. What? What's that? I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago with the President of the Hotel Association in the Algarve.
Do you want to make a question, or?
Yes, I just want, okay, I can do the question at once. To that member who is having that support for SMEs nest. Which type of concrete projects do you have at Algarve level that you are supporting?
The support, well, for example, in Algarve, there is one startup which is called IMT, that it's related to technology that enables the air conditioning and also the consumption of energy in rooms. And they are doing this in a hotel, I can't remember which one, on which they're piloting their solution. And we have been providing them, actually they will be here featured in this event, and we are bringing them as well to international events, so to promote solutions that are being done in Portugal, but I actually directing to sustainability. Our aim is actually not directing to any specific region, is actually on ideas that can be disseminated, as I said in the beginning, scale is the more important thing, that can be disseminated as much as possible throughout the country. And this is the application of those solutions into the companies. So to your answer, yes, there is entrepreneurs in Algarve that we work directly, but we are not looking for Algarve or North or Lisbon or whatsoever. We are just looking for really great stuff that the majority of Portuguese companies can actually use. So we are running about approximately 5 pilots every year. The more hands we would have, we are only 3 in our innovation center, and the more money we would have, the more pilots we could do. But we have this care to actually work out on things that can be as fast as possible applicable.
Okay. If there aren't more questions? No? So we're about to finish our time. So I would thank all the participants.
Thank you.
For being in this panel, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Obrigada.
Thank you, Alessandra.